The emergency room's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I struggled to breathe, each intake of air sending sharp pains through my chest. My mother's perfectly manicured hand gripped my shoulder, her whispered words becoming a familiar mantra. "Remember, Sophia, it was an accident. Jason is struggling with his college rejection letters. He didn't mean to hurt you." I'm Sophia Martinez, 23, and this was the seventh accident this year. My younger brother Jason, the golden child of our wealthy suburban family, had flown into a rage when I refused to let him take my car. The kicks to my ribs were deliberate, methodical. Nothing like the emotional outbursts my parents would later describe to the doctors. "Mrs. Martinez?" A nurse called from the reception desk. "We're ready for Sophia." My mother immediately straightened, her social mask sliding perfectly into place. "I'll come with you, dear." "Actually," the nurse, her badge read Nina, said firmly, "hospital policy requires we speak with adult patients privately first." I could feel my mother's fingers tightening on my shoulder. "But I'm her mother." "And she's 23, Nina cut in smoothly. "Standard procedure, ma'am. Please wait here." Once inside the examination room, Nina's professional demeanor softened. "Let's take a look at those ribs, shall we?" As she helped me remove my shirt, her sharp intake of breath told me what I already knew. The bruising wasn't just fresh. There were yellowing marks from last week, half-healed scratches from the month before. "Sophia," Nina said quietly, "these injuries didn't all happen today." I stared at the wall, counting the holes in the ceiling tiles. "I'm clumsy." "Clumsy doesn't cause defensive wounds on your forearms. Clumsy doesn't leave hand-shaped bruises on your shoulders." She paused, typing something into her tablet. "I'm pulling up your medical records." My head snapped toward her. "Please don't." 3 ER visits in the past 4 months. Sprained wrist in January, fell downstairs. Concussion in March, walked into a door. Dislocated shoulder in April, sports accident. Nina looked up from the screen. "Funny how these accidents started right after your brother moved back home." Tears burned in my eyes. "You don't understand. Jason, he's just going through a hard time. Once he gets into a good college." "He'll what? Stop using you as a punching bag?" Nina's voice was gentle but firm. "Honey, I've been an ER nurse for 15 years. I know the difference between accidents and abuse." The word hung in the air between us. Abuse? I never allowed myself to think of it that way. Jason was my little brother, the family prodigy. Our parents had always explained away his temper as passion, intensity, the natural result of his brilliant mind being misunderstood. My parents would never. "Let me guess," Nina interrupted. "They tell you he doesn't mean it. That it's your fault for provoking him. That family matters should stay private." A sob caught in my throat, sending fresh pain through my ribs. "They love him." "Maybe they do," Nina said, preparing to examine my ribs. "But they're enabling his violence, and it's going to get worse." As if summoned by her words, I heard my father's authoritative voice in the hallway. "The distinguished Judge Martinez, here to manage another situation." "This ends today," Nina said, reaching for her phone. "Those ribs are broken, and I'm calling in our domestic violence specialist." "No, please," I grabbed her arm. "You don't know what they'll do." "I know exactly what they'll do. They'll try to minimize, deflect, and control the narrative. But here's what's different this time." She held up my medical file. "We have documentation, years of it, patterns that any court would recognize as systematic abuse." The door burst open, my father filling the frame with his imposing presence. "Sophia, we're leaving. Now." Nina stepped between us. "Your daughter has multiple broken ribs, Judge Martinez. She's not going anywhere." "I know my daughter's rights, and I know hospital protocol and mandatory reporting laws." Nina's voice was steel. "So please take a seat in the waiting room while I finish examining your daughter. Unless you'd like me to call security." For the first time in my life, I watched my father back down. As the door closed behind him, Nina turned to me with determined eyes. "You're not alone anymore, Sophia, and this time, we're going to make sure the truth comes out." I nodded, trembling but feeling something unfamiliar bloom in my chest alongside the pain. Hope. Nina worked methodically, photographing my injuries while the X-ray results came back. 3 broken ribs, exactly as she'd suspected, but it was the old injuries that told the real story. Hairline fractures that had healed improperly, evidence of repeated trauma that no amount of family influence could explain away. Dr. Santos is our domestic violence specialist, Nana explained, helping me into a hospital gown. She's also a forensic expert who testifies in abuse cases. Your father can't intimidate her. As if on cue, Dr. Santos entered, a petite woman with kind eyes and an air of quiet authority. She carried a thick file and a tablet. Hello, Sophia. I've reviewed your medical history from 3 different hospitals in the area. She sat down, meeting my eyes. Your family has been busy covering tracks, but medical records don't lie. My hands twisted in the thin hospital blanket. What do you mean? Different names, different insurance cards, but the pattern is clear. The injuries always occur at home, always when your brother is present, and always with your parents providing elaborate explanations. Outside, I could hear my mother's voice rising, probably trying to charm information out of the hospital staff. It was her standard approach, the concerned, well-connected mother who just wanted to take care of her children. Your brother's medical records are also interesting, Dr. Santos continued. Multiple prescriptions for anger management medications never filled. 3 recommended psychiatric evaluations never completed. They said therapy would hurt his college applications, I whispered. And now he's hurting you instead. Dr. Santos' voice was gentle but firm. This isn't your burden to carry, Sophia. A knock at the door made me flinch. Nana checked. It was a police officer, Detective Sarah Chen. The hospital called us, she explained, taking in my defensive posture. Standard procedure for suspected domestic violence. I don't want to press charges, I said automatically. You don't have to make that decision right now, Detective Chen said. But I need to document everything while the evidence is fresh. As she took my statement, I found myself talking about things I'd never told anyone. How Jason's violence had started with small things. Pushing, pinching, accidental trips. How it escalated after his first college rejection. How our parents always had an excuse, always found a way to make it seem normal. Last week, I found myself saying, he threw a laptop at my head because I wouldn't write his college essays. Mom said I should have just helped him. Nina, who had stayed nearby, made a sound of disgust. That's not help, that's coercion. Your brother needs professional intervention, Dr. Santos added. And you need protection. Detective Chen nodded, finishing her notes. We have enough for an emergency protective order. You won't have to go back home. The thought was both terrifying and liberating. But where would I go? We have partnerships with several safe houses, Nina said. Places your family won't be able to find you until you're ready. A commotion outside drew our attention. Jason had arrived, his voice echoing down the hallway. Where's my sister? I need to talk to her. I started shaking, the monitor beeping as my heart rate spiked. Nina immediately moved to the door, blocking it. Security to emergency room 4. Dr. Santos spoke into her phone, calm but alert. Through the door, I could hear my brother's familiar pattern, the initial rage, followed by tearful apologies. I'm sorry, Soph. I didn't mean it. Please, just come home. Detective Chen was already on her radio. I need units at Memorial Hospital, possible domestic disturbance. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Security arrived to handle Jason. Detective Chen went to deal with my increasingly hostile parents. Through it all, Nana stayed by my side, her presence steady and reassuring. You're doing the right thing, she said quietly. It's going to be hard, but you're not alone anymore. Dr. Santos returned with admission papers. We're keeping you overnight for observation. By morning, we'll have everything in place for your safe transfer. For the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me. The weight of family secrets, of forced smiles and careful lies began to lift. Okay, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I'm ready. Outside my room, I could hear my family being escorted from the hospital, their protests fading down the corridor. But here, surrounded by people who saw the truth and chose to act, I finally felt safe. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, I could breathe, despite my broken ribs, knowing I was finally breaking free. 3 months after that night in the emergency room, I sat in a sunlit counseling office, looking at photographs of my old life. The bruises had faded, my ribs had healed, but the emotional wounds were still tender, like newly formed scars. You've made remarkable progress, Dr. Patel, my therapist, observed. How do you feel about tomorrow's hearing? Tomorrow. The word sent butterflies through my stomach. The court date for Jason's assault charges had finally arrived. Despite my parents' best efforts to handle things privately, Detective Chen had built a solid case. Scared, I admitted. But not of Jason anymore. I'm scared of facing my parents. Since that night, I've been living in a secured apartment complex, working remotely for a graphic design company. Nana had helped me connect with a survivors support group, where I met others who understood the complex pain of family violence. Your parents enabled the abuse, Dr. Patel reminded me. Their reaction tomorrow isn't your responsibility. My phone buzzed. Another email from Mom, subject line, "Please reconsider." I deleted it without reading. The first few weeks after I left, they'd alternated between threats and pleading. Now, with Jason facing actual consequences, they were desperate. Later that afternoon, I met Nana for coffee, our weekly ritual since the hospital. She'd become more than just the nurse who helped me escape. She was my anchor in this new life. "Nervous about tomorrow?" she asked, sliding my usual latte across the table. "Jason's lawyer keeps pushing for a plea deal," I said. "No jail time, just mandatory counseling and anger management." Nina's expression hardened. "And what do you want?" I paused, really thinking about it. I want him to get help. Real help, not just the surface level stuff our parents tried. But I also want him to face consequences. "That's completely valid," Nina assured me. "You can love someone and still hold them accountable." The next morning, I walked into the courthouse with Nana and Detective Chen flanking me. My parents sat in the front row, Mom's perfect makeup failing to hide her distress, Dad's jaw clenched tight. Jason sat with his lawyer, looking smaller somehow, without the protection of our parents' influence. When it was my turn to speak, I faced the judge instead of my family. "My brother needs help," I said, my voice steady. Not excuses, not cover-ups, but real professional help. Every time our parents smoothed things over, they enabled him to become more violent. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because I want the cycle to stop." The judge listened carefully, reviewing the medical records, the police reports, the pattern of escalation. In the end, Jason received a suspended sentence contingent on completing an intensive treatment program, regular psychiatric care, and maintaining a restraining order. As the court adjourned, my mother approached, tears streaming down her face. "Sophia, please, we can still fix this as a family." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear behind her perfect facade. Fear of scandal, of failure, of admitting that her picture-perfect family had been built on denial and pain. "We can't fix it by hiding it, Mom. Jason needs professional help, not protection. And I need to feel safe." "But we're your parents," she pleaded. "We love you." "Love shouldn't hurt," I said softly. "Maybe someday you'll understand that." Dad stood behind her, his legal authority useless in this situation. For once, he couldn't control the narrative. As they left, Nina squeezed my hand. "You did it." Outside the courthouse, my support group was waiting. Sarah, who'd escaped an abusive spouse. Michael, who'd survived parental abuse. Lisa, whose sister had nearly killed her. They understood what it meant to choose truth over family loyalty. "We're getting lunch to celebrate," Sarah announced. "You're coming." Looking at their faces, these people who'd become my chosen family, I felt something settle in my chest. The guilt of betraying my family was finally giving way to pride in my own strength. Later that night, in my new apartment, I added the court documents to my healing folder, the collection of evidence, photographs, and journal entries that reminded me why I'd chosen this path. My phone lit up with a text from Nana. "Proud of you, warrior. Same time next week for coffee." I smiled, feeling the warmth of genuine care without conditions or costs. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in my life, I was walking it on my own terms. The truth had set me free, and I was never going back to living in fear.